So during the discussion, the approach which we adopted was for appropriate understanding. So you might have found that it is not as per the sequence in the syllabus. The concept of dependent source was not dealt by us in that flow. We dealt with voltage source. In fact, we skipped current source because that is something which creates inhibition according to my perception, and the concept of dependent source we did not explore. But now we are in a better position to understand the concept of dependent source. So what is an independent source? An independent source is directly a constant voltage source like a battery. So what are you reading? Look here. No, not you. A battery, it is a practical voltage source in fact, but while general discussion, solving problems, we deal with an ideal constant voltage source. Current source we skipped, right? We did not deliberately touch upon. Now, in the active networks, I told you the concept of an amplifier. Like that, a dependent source is, I will simply explain, the constant voltage source is shown by this. Constant current source is shown by this method, whereas dependent voltage source is shown by this. So dependent voltage source is actually output of an amplifier. Dependent voltage source is output of an amplifier, and in the constant voltage source what we write? Say 3 volts. For a constant current source we write say 2 amperes, right? Whereas for a dependent voltage source, the value is not constant, but the value, I think I am explaining in such a simple manner that everybody must understand. The value, the voltage, if a dependent voltage is in A and B, voltage of point A with respect to point B is not constant, but is dependent on something else. So this voltage may depend upon some other voltage or some other current. So there are 2 possibilities now. One is a dependent voltage source. This is dependent voltage source. And other is a dependent current source. It is shown by this kind. Whereas this current, for a constant current source, we directly put some constant value. Whereas here, we put some value which includes one variable. And now, there are 4 types of sources. Voltage dependent voltage source, voltage dependent current source, current dependent voltage source, and current dependent current source. So, in just a simple example, I can explain this to you. We can have a now, sometimes rather than explaining a lot, if we solve direct example, we may get everything instantly. So now, by any, let us try to learn by working directly. Find out current I in the example shown by any method. Is it clear? Take some time, so that we'll pause the recording.